Alright, hello again. This is Jeff Scott of Blackhawk Technical College, and what I'll be doing right now is working to create a couple programs from Chapter 4 so we can show loops and input validation. First thing I want to do is I forgot here that I'm going to have two programs for Chapter 4. So I want to change the name of this to Chapter 04 Payroll 01. And I believe the way I do that is to right mouse click on it, choose refactor, rename, and then I want to put 01 on the end of this. Always make sure that update references is checked. Click OK, and it looks like it's been changed. Good start. Alright, so I'm going to bring that file up. This is the same one that we used for our Chapter 3 program, and my size is goofed up again. So let's right mouse click, choose preferences, go over to General, Appearance, Colors and Fonts. I think it's Java. And something over here. Where was that? I know it's in here somewhere. Editor text or display font, I don't remember, but it was one of these. So I'm going to try them until I find it. Editor text, edit. I think I was using 14 point. And I don't remember what kind of font I was using. So let's try, I think it was, might have been Times New Roman, but I don't remember. So let's go over and find Times New Roman in here. Click OK, apply, and OK. And it changed it. Okay? Probably not the color I was using before or the font I was using, but it's fine. First thing I want to do is I want to add a couple more program constants in here. Alright. Private, static. These are all going to be doubles. Final, double. And I'm going to call it min hours. And I'm going to set that equal to 0. And we'll just say minimum hours worked. You can maybe guess what's coming next. And that's going to be max hours. And we're going to set that to 84. So the minimum number of hours that you can work in a week are 0, and the maximum number of hours you can work in a week are 84. Alright, let's add a couple more, and we're going to call these min rate. And we're going to suppose that at this place of employment, the minimum hourly rate is $10 an hour, and the maximum hourly rate is going to be $100 an hour. Again, I'm just putting in here arbitrary values. They really and truly do not mean anything. All right. And I've put these in so that we're able to come in here and add some input validation. All right. So I've got min hours, max hours, min rate, and max rate, as you can see. It won't change anything in here. We still have our variables. We still have our first name and our last name, but where it'll start to change is here. All right, so now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to say while hours is less than min hours, or hours is greater than max hours, which means that we put in a value that was either less than 0 or was greater than 100. So if that's the case, we're going to say here, we'll just put a system.out.println. All right, and we'll say illegal input. Hours must be 0 to 84. All right, if I wanted to, I could actually put the values. Maybe that would be better. Hours must be between plus, and we'll add here min hours and max hours. So that should actually automatically put that in there for us. Okay? All right, and then I'm just going to repeat this. And I suppose that rather than a system.out.println, I really should have used a JOption pane show message dialog. All right, that would have been much cleaner to do, and it would have made it look, more the way that it looks right now. So let's do that. So I'll put that null in there, and I'm just going to put this on a new line. All right. So let's see whether or not that worked. This should keep us stuck in here until we put in an hours that's between 0 and 84. So that's what I want to check right now. Run. Please input name, Jeff Scott. Now I'm purposely putting stuff that's out of range. -3. Illegal input. Hours must be between 0 and 84. Good. 85. Same thing. Good. All right, so let's put in 80. And it took it because now it moved to hourly rate. And we're about to do the same thing for hourly rate. All right. So I have no problem at all copying this stuff and making the changes accordingly. So now we just put in the hourly rate. So here hours has got to be changed to rate, and this has got to be changed to rate as well. And now we must say that the rate must be between min rate, oopsie, copy, and here. Please input, and got to change that again to hourly rate. Be real careful if you're going to do a lot of what I'm doing right here, which is copying and pasting, because if you forget one, you're kind of hosed. All right, so let's save it, we'll run it, we'll make sure it works, then we'll go back and decompose it or take a look at it. Again, the name hasn't changed. We know now that if we put in a value that's out of range for the hours, all right, it won't take it if it's either too low or too high. All right, so we'll put in 50. The hourly rate, again, remember that is between 10 and 100, so let's try 9. Doesn't take it. Let's try 101. Doesn't take it. Let's try 10. If all works, we should have made $550. And you can see, looking in here, we did. So we didn't break anything. That's the good news. So, what did we change? Well, we added 4 constants. And I'm going to put in here declare and initialize input validation constants. Okay, and these were just, I'll leave it as program constants. Okay, so I added these 4 lines. So I've got the minimum number of hours you can work per week are 0. The maximum number of hours per week you can work are 84. The minimum pay rate you can have is $10 an hour. The maximum you can have is $100 an hour. All right? We didn't change anything at all. Nothing in here in our variables. Nothing in our decimal formatter, nothing in our first name, nothing in our last name. Where the changes came in were right here. All right, now leave that up there for a second, but what it's saying is now after we asked the user to enter their hours worked, now we checked and we said while it's less than 0 or it's greater than 84. So we probably would have been better off right here too, just putting a visual cue in there for the user, so 0 through 84. So they knew when they ran this what it was supposed to be between. You don't have to do that. And again, we could have used the min hours and max hours, but I'm just, for simplicity's sake, I'm going to leave it like that. right? And if we put in a value that was out of range, either too low or too high, we give them a message that says illegal input and tell them that the hours must be between those two values, and we ask them to do it again. The idea is, once we ask them to input hours, we keep them stuck in a while loop until they put a value in there that is between 0 and 84. Then we come down and we do the same thing for the hourly rate. All right, and again, the value here is between 10 and 100. But we're doing the same thing. All right, so we're asking you here to enter an hourly rate. 10 to 100. We really should have had it here too for the hours worked. 0 to 84. All right, we had it already up here, and we should put it in here too. So now when we run the program again, what you're going to see is it'll be about as reflective as possible over what we want. Please enter hours worked, 0 to 84. Okay? Please enter input hourly rate, 10 to 100. And it works. All right, and you'll see that if we do this one more time, we run it one more time, and we put in whatever for the first name and the last name. Okay, now the hours worked, if we do put in something that's out of range, we get a message that still says must be between these two values. All right, and it comes back and it tells us that again. All right, the only other thing that we can do, we don't have to do this, I broke out of the program, but what we could have added in here for the first name and the last name, we could have done a little bit of validation just to make sure that there was something in there. So we could have come in here and said while first name dot equals the empty string, so which means we put nothing in there. Okay, then we could put again a J option pane show message dialog, and we can ask them to do it again. So I'm just going to grab that stuff from here. All right, we could say illegal input. How about we'll change that to no input. You must enter a name. A first name. Okay, something like that. All right, and then we'll come back in here and we'll just grab that line again, because we don't need this. And we can do a similar thing for last name. Now this is about the most bare bones of input validation that we could do, but we are requiring that they enter something for a first name and something for a last name. So by making those changes, let's save this and then let's run it again. Okay, let's save it and run. All right, now I'm going to leave it blank. No input, you must enter a first name. See, the system doesn't know. I can put in 1, 2, 3. So because all I'm checking for is if it's blank. Okay, so I can put in 4, 5, 6 now, and oh, no input, you must enter a last name. Okay, which says to me I've got some kind of an error in my code. All right, yep, see that? I didn't change last name right there. So that has to be changed to last name. Oops, with only one T, not two. All right, so that was an error on my part. Now the problem with that is the program is, I think, still running, so I don't know if we can do another run, but we can try. So let's save and run it again. As I just proved, not purposely. Okay, so you must enter a first name. Enter a first name, boom. Last name. You must enter a last name. Input a last name. Okay, now it appears to work. 50, 10, Boom. Okay, so everything is copacetic again. It's all cool. All right, so that's the first one. So again, we made sure we did input validation to make sure there was a first name. All right, so input first name, etc., etc. We can put in here, validate that something was entered for the first name. And we can put something similar in here. Validate that something was entered for the last name. All right? And then we're coming in here and we're saying, in here, validate that hours input was between 0 and 84. Okay? And down here, input that input was between 10 and 100. You can see as I'm putting in more comments and more code, of course, that the program is getting bigger. I'm now up to about 115 lines. Now, I always like to do this after I go and add some stuff, even if it's just comments, to run the program one more time, make sure I didn't break anything. And it looks fine. All right, so that's the first example. Okay, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to copy all this and I'm going to write one more example. And how this is going to change, just so you know how this is going to change, is I'm now going to add all of this stuff to a file. All right, so rather than writing the information on the screen, I'm going to be able to save it and save it to a file. So the first thing I want to do is, again, Control A, Control C. I want to copy everything that's in there. Then I want to close this project. I want to do what we've always been doing, and that is File, New, Project. All right, we're going to call this Chapter 04, Payroll 02. Whoops, 02. All right, looks good. Finish. Right mouse click, New, Package, edu.blackhawk.jscott. That's there. New class, Payroll, and we're going to paste in everything that we had from the previous program. All right, the other thing is it looks like all of these projects are still open because they've got the plus sign there. So I'm going to right mouse click, close project, right mouse click, close project, right mouse click, close project, right mouse click, close project. Now the only one that's open is the one we're working on, all right, which is the payroll number 2. Now what do we have to add in here? Well, and I'm going to do it the old-fashioned kind of way. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to import one more file. Remember, when I do an import statement, it goes out to the API and it finds whatever it is I've imported. So I'm going to import java.io.star. And that is for file handling. Okay, so I've got that in there. Now I still get the underlines here. It's not an error, but it's letting me know, hey, it's never used. We're going to use it in just a minute. All right, not a lot is going to change in this program. I'm still going to have all my constants. In main, though, I have to let the system know this throws an IO exception. Again, what that means is it is possible that our program can throw an IO exception. Let's see, since we put that in, did now notice the underline is gone. Okay, so that's what we've changed so far. We have to add another couple variables, or one more variable. I'll tell you what, we're going to just write this stuff out to a file. So I'm going to create a print writer object, and I'm going to do that by saying print writer. We'll just call it output file equals new print writer, and we'll call it, well, we're writing about employees, so let's call it employees.txt. All right. Now, system doesn't know what print writer is, so it says, do we need to create a new class print writer? Well, that's because I didn't put a capital P there. Okay. Again, I get the underscores there, or the squiggly, the yellow squiggly, because I haven't used this yet. I'm going to use it in just a minute. All right. So, I've used some while loops in here. You've seen that. I used them in the last program. All right. But this time, let's do something a little different. All right. Let's create, let's assume that we have 5 people who work at this company. All right, so I'm going to go in and I'm going to add another constant up here. So I'm going to declare and initialize. It's going to be another constant, but what do I want to say here? Program constant, input validation constant. Let's just call it a looping constant. All right, and I'm going to say, oops, private static final, and this one won't be a double, it'll be an int because we're going to call it total employees, and we're going to set it equal to 5, and we're going to imagine that right now there are 5 total employees. Okay, and that's what we're using in here, not employees, employees. How about let's just change this, knock this down to total imps. That looks a little better. All right, and there are 5 total employees. Okay, so why did I do that? Well, what I want to do in here now, after I've created all this stuff out here, all right, and notice I'm creating all these constants at the top of my program, so later if I add more things, I'll be able to use them. But now inside of main, after I've got all of my variables in here, including my decimal format, my print writer, etc., now what I want to do is I want to put in here, I want to put in a for loop. So I'm going to say for, we'll call it LCV, because I've been using that for loop control variable, for int LCV equals 1, LCV less than, and actually we should set it equal to 0, I guess, instead of setting, well, does it really matter? I mean, if you're employee 0 or employee 1, we start, we're computer people. So while it's less than total emps, LCV plus plus, okay? And we need a curly there. Now, we've got a curly, and notice we don't have an ending curly yet because we want to move all this stuff now over. Everything that we've done here. We want to move all of it over because we want to do this for all 5 of our employees. So sorry, I'm making it a little ugly here, but yeah, it'll be fine. And let's see, I believe we're going to have to do everything inside of this loop, including doing the employees' gross, and including printing the stuff out. But this time we're going to change the way we're printing it out, so we'll get to that in just a bit. Again, remember, you're going to get all of this code. When I get done and do the last one of these, and I've got them through Chapter 9, so I'll have to make up one for Chapter 10 and one for Chapter 11. But once I've done that, and I've got all those, I'm going to make them available to everybody in the class. I don't have any problem doing that. All right, so that's the end of main. So I'm going to need another curly here, and we'll just say end for loop. All right, so I've now got everything inside of my for loop. This is good. Everything's good. Now, the only problem is that right now, I'm printing all this stuff out on the screen. You saw that. I'm doing my system.out.println. And it's not a problem that I'm doing it, but it's not what I want to do. All right, what do I mean? If I confused you, I'm sorry. But what I'm saying here is what I want to do right here is I want to change the system.out.println. Each one of those, I want to change it to, I think we called it output file. .println. And we'll leave our option pane out here. But let's do this for 5 different employees. Then we'll come back and we'll take a look at it. I think I'm done. But let's go back and take a look at it. So let's do a run. All right, so this is going to be the first employee. Okay? So when I've got it, please input first name, what I really should do is change that to the employee number. So I'll go back and do that in a minute. So I'll put all the people in my family in. Jeff, Scott, I'm going to make it all valid the first time I run this. All right, I worked 50 hours and I make $10 an hour. There's my information. Okay? Here's the next employee. Here's my wife, Sandy Scott. And she worked 75 hours and she makes $20 an hour. All right. Then I've got a daughter, Chloe. So Chloe, she worked 100 hours, and that's an illegal input because you can only work up till 84. So she worked 80 hours and she makes $50 an hour. All right. Then I've got my daughter, Mackenzie. And she worked, let's say, 75 hours. She makes $25 an hour. Finally, I've got my daughter, Taylor. And let's say she worked 40 hours and she makes $30 an hour. All right? So now I've got all that information, and you say, well, that's fine, but nothing really happened. Well, let's look. Somewhere here, I'm hoping that the system that I wrote a file, and I don't know where it would be. All right? Because this should have created a file for me. All right, and it should have created a file, but did I tell it to create a file? Oh, doggone it, I didn't. Or did I? Yeah, right here, employees.txt. All right, and I think I might have to go and create that file first. So I'm going to come in here, and I'm going to say under my project right here, I'm going to right mouse click, do new, untitled text file. All right, and I now want to save this. Should be showing it to me in here. File, save as. I want to save it underneath here. So I want to save it, it's the parent folder, and I want the file name to be employees.txt, and I'll click OK. It says save could not be completed. A resource already exists on disk with that name. All right, it says desktop there, and it says there already is one. So it says it's already here. Now the problem is I have to find it. Aha, and what's down there? Employees.txt. Well, let's open that. We'll open it with another text editor. Will it tell us? We'll just open it with a regular editor. New, open with text editor. It says it does not exist. Well, that isn't good. Cannot create an in-place editor. Okay. How about this? Let's grab this file. Let's copy it. It may be empty, and that's okay if it is. That's still from the error that we had before. So I'll have to fix that. And let's paste. So let's see if there's anything in there. There is not. Okay, it is an empty file. First of all, let me just put some garbage in here. Yeah, this is going to keep doing this because of the error that I put in the code before. So what I'll do, I'm going to do a file, and I'm going to exit, and then I'm going to enter it again. Employees has been modified. Save the changes. No. All right, that'll close that. Now let's start this up again. Cannot create the in-place editor. That's okay. I didn't want to do that anyway. So again, I don't know if there's anything actually in this file or not. Close. Looks like the file is empty right there. So I want to close it. Come on. And let's try to run the program again and see if we run the program, if we can put something into that file. If we can't, then I'm doing it the wrong way, and I'm not trying to do that. So we're going to do it very quickly here. First name, Jeff Scott, 40 hours, $10 an hour. Of course, I already put bad data in there, so try that one more time. Run. Clear out my console. Run. First name, Jeff. Last name, Scott. Hours, 40. Hourly rate, 10. So hopefully that worked. Sandy. Scott. 50. 10. Chloe. Scott. 60 hours. 10. Taylor. Scott. 70 hours. 10. Ann Mackenzie. Scott. 80 hours. 10. All right, now hopefully we have information in here. I don't know if we do or not. All right. It says cannot create an in-place editor. It's probably because there's no OLE editor put in there. Okay. But if we right mouse click and we say open, might get the same error message. Right mouse click, open with text editor. All right, it looks like it's not creating anything for us right now. I'm not sure what the problem is. I have done this before. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back and I'm going to take a look at my code to see if I have missed anything. And then I'll come back and I'll tell you what I'll do for right now. I'm just going to pause what I'm working on right now. All right, I have not found the problem yet, but I do want to mention a few things that I forgot to do, and I'm going to mention to you right now. All right, first is I tried to line stuff up because it's got a little bit out of whack here. All right, there's nothing new in here. All right, but what I want to mention was when I came down here, I added another variable because what is this? Total gross of all employees. So in other words, that is an accumulator. One of the things that was talked about in the chapter, so I should really put that in. So every time I figure out a gross pay, what I'm doing is I am adding that to my total gross. So I should have the total gross of all 5 employees when I get done. All right, I didn't see anything in here that looked funky or potentially wrong as far as what I put in there. I don't think there's anything wrong. After my for loop, I added on the screen the total pay for all employees to see if that would work. And I also tried to throw that into my output file, and then I close the file, which I was not doing before. But if you forget to close an output file, it's supposed to be closed for you automatically. So let's at least see if our calculations are correct. What I'll do is I will have every one of the people here, every person will work 50 hours and make $10 an hour. So they should each make $550. 550 times 5 should be $2,750 if I'm doing my math right. So let's at least see if that's working. All right. Jeff, Scott, 50, 10. Sandy, Scott, 50, 10. Mackenzie, Scott, 50, 10. Chloe, Scott, 50, 10. Taylor, Scott, 50, 10. All right, so boom, I'm done. Total gross for all employees was $2,750. End of program run. So that all looks like it worked. All right, I still look like I'm having problems getting stuff to write out to here, and I'm not sure why that's the case. So try to copy that file again, and I'm going to remove it from here, and I'm going to paste it in. All right, now the first thing to check is the properties, because if it's the size is 0, oh, there's 510 bytes now. That's good. Aha! And there is my file. Okay. And I should even have my total at the very bottom. Total gross for all employees, $2,750. Life is good. All right. The only thing I'd like to change is I'd like to come down and over here, whoops, I don't want to get an error message. I didn't want to open that. Cancel. There we go. So when I'm telling you to enter something, so where it says, please input hourly rate, okay? Really it would probably be a lot better if I'll try to remember to do this on the next iteration of this, and that is to come in there and say for employee number type of thing. Okay, so I'll put that in. I think we're making progress here. All right. I don't know if it says open with. If I say system editor, there it is. It is still opening that. So it is there. All right, so everything is cool. So far, as I'm going to close this, close my payroll, my employee text, there it is. So I'm going to close this project. So far we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've gone through 4 chapters. We've written 6 programs. All right. The next chapter that we're going to go through in our book, Chapter 5. I thought I still had that open, but I must have closed it. I believe that Chapter 5, now we're going to start writing more than one method. Okay? We're going to start writing more than one method. That's the idea behind Chapter 5. So if I go down here, find Chapter 5, whoops. We are in the book up to page 306, so we're making progress. And the chapter is entitled Methods. All right, I think it's a shorter chapter, so I will be coming back with that one shortly.